But acrostics also can serve to provide hidden messages. And it's a mechanism for that. In the book of Esther, we encounter some remarkable surprises. You say the name of God doesn't appear. Wrong. It appears 8 times. I'll show you. It's been noted by many commentators, Esther is the only book of the Bible in which does not appear the name of God, or anywhere in the book. Martin Luther favored eliminating it from the Bible on this basis. Here's a quote from his writings. I am so great an enemy to the second book of the Maccabees and to Esther that I wish they had not come to us at all, for they have too many heathen unnaturalities. The Jews much more esteemed the book of Esther than any of the prophets, though they were forbidden to read it before they had attained the age of 30, by reason of the mystic matters it contains. That's Martin Luther. He not only is wrong about Esther, he's also wrong about the 30. That applies to the Song of Solomon, not the book of Esther. But anyway, we won't get into all that here. We're not here to upset people about Martin Luther. He was a great leader in many ways. But acrostics hidden messages, you see, the name of God does appear in a number of places if you know how to look for it. And so the foiling of the wicked plot of Haman to blot out the Jews, of course, is one of the more dramatic narratives in the Bible. Furthermore, beyond the surprises in the plot, there are also some surprises hidden within the text itself. And that's what we're going to play around with tonight. And one of the many ways, of course, is an acrostic, and a systematic sequence of letters in the text which can also have meaning or significance of its own. It's a code of skipping letters. We're going to look at 2 different kinds. We're going to look at acrostics as a form of skipping letters, and we'll be looking at what's called an equidistant letter sequence as a specialized kind. But anyway, one of the simplest form of acrostic is simply the repetition of the same or successive letters at the beginning of clauses. Now, God declared, back in Deuteronomy 31, that if his people forsook him, he would hide his face from them. So he's hiding his face from them, but that doesn't mean he's not watching out for them. That's the paradox that's being dealt with here. So here in this very episode, that threat was fulfilled. That even though he was hidden from them, God is still working for them. And the name of God is hidden no less than 8 times in acrostics in the text. The first acrostic we'll take a look at. It appears at the conclusion of Memucan's counsel regarding the disposition of Queen Vashti, back in chapter 1, verse 20. And it's shown as I'm showing you here. But if you take the first letter of each word, bear in mind, let's back up a minute. All languages flow towards Jerusalem. Did you know that? All nations that are east of Jerusalem go from right to left. Hebrew, Arabic, Aramaic, Sanskrit, it goes on and on. Those nations that are west of Jerusalem go from left to right. Latin and all its derivatives, Greek, you name it. So the first letter is highlighted here on the slide. And if you take those letters and put them together, you have, anyway, the name of God. It's formed by I want you to notice here, it's formed by the initial letters, and it is it's here. You may not recognize because it's backwards. Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh goes in the other direction. Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, it goes left to right the way we're reading it. That's backwards for Hebrew. It's in here backwards. And we're going to get into the forward and backward, front letter, back letter. That's all done deliberately. I'll explain as we go here. It's playing backward because God is turning back the counsels of man, which is Memucan. Okay? The second acrostic occurs when Esther invites the king and Haman to a banquet. That's in chapter 5, verse 4. And that's what it looks like in the Hebrew. And here again, if you take the first letter of each word, it spells Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. And this, God is initiating the action, and it's forward because God is ruling and causing Esther to act. Okay? I'll summarize this in a little chart at the end here. The third acrostic occurs in chapter 5, verse 13, and that's what it looks like. And here's another one of these where it's backwards, if you will. Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, but backwards. The final letters, because Haman's end was approaching, it's backwards because, oh, by the way, I have to catch you on that. In this case, we're not using the first letter of each word, we're using the last letter of each word, and we're doing it backwards. It's the final letters because Haman's end is approaching. It's backwards because God is overruling Haman's gladness and turning back Haman's counsel. And you say, well, that's you're contriving it. No, this is consistently being applied throughout all of these. The fourth one is in chapter 7, verse 7, like the third, is formed by the final letters for Haman's end had come. So again, we're taking the last letter of each word, and we have Yod He Vav He forward now. It's spelled forward like the first, for God is ruling and bringing about the end that he had determined. Okay? You got that all down? Okay. The overall design in each of these four acrostics revealing Yod He Vav He involves the utterance of a different speaker. First one was Memucan, second one was Esther, third one was Haman himself, the fourth one was the writer of the book of Esther. Got that so far? All right. The first two acrostics are a pair having the name formed by the initial letters of the four words. The last two are a pair having the name formed by the final letters of the two words. You with me so far? Okay. It's remarkable that in the two cases where the name is formed by the initial letters, the facts recorded are initial also. That in an occasion where God's overruling counsel was initiated, in the last two cases where the name is formed by the final letters, the events are final also and lead quickly to the end toward which God was working. So we find that the structure of the acrostics are almost acting like transitive verbs in the direction that they're pointing. In the two cases where the name is spelled backwards, God is seen overruling the counsels of the Gentiles in the accomplishment of his own things. Where the name is spelled forward, he is ruling directly in the interests of his own people, although it was unknown to them at the time. All I'm getting, you don't need to remember the details, the point I'm getting across, it is designed deliberately. That's the overwhelming impact of this to me. That even the letter, the order of the letters, the way they aren't just they tuck these cards in. No, they're integral with what's going on. We have initial, and final, and final. They're initial because the facts are initial. They're final because the facts are final. The first one is backward. The second one is forward. The third one is backward. The fourth one is forward. They're backward because they're Gentiles. They're forward if they're Israelites. If they're done forward, it's the Hebrew. If they're going backwards, the Gentiles. That's kind of interesting to me. I think that's, the more you embrace that, see, there's no two alike, but each difference has a reason for being different. And these are not my contrived things. This is out of the Talmud. These are Talmudically recognized by most rabbis.